Everyone, how are we? This is a little Wednesday roundup. It's usually just the Monday roundup. This is the Wednesday roundup this week because I'm a bit late. So my apologies. First of all, it's a Sunday night sort of fight. Chris Billam Smith against Mateusz Masternak. I agree with quite a few people on this. I had this fairly. Masternak was in front, put it that way, and I think it was just a simple reason of Masternak had just far better fundamentals, and especially defensively, because Billam Smith he's very statically upright in his style, isn't he? And when he throws punches, especially when he advances and throws punches, when he stands off, he'll stand off out of range and he'll move from side to side and he'll have some head movement. And then when he moves in and walks forward and throws punches, his head stays completely on the centre line. There's no side-to-side movement from the head or no change in levels at all as he throws his punches. So as he throws his punches, his head remains completely static. And all Masternak had to do, and which he was doing, was either counter or punch with Billam Smith. And every time he did, he would land because it was a stationary target every time. So he was just winning it purely on that. And I think at the end of, the fifth or the sixth maybe, McGuigan sort of read him the riot act about moving his head, and some upper body movement, because he was just a pole almost, just a pole that walked forward with no movement either side. And like I say, every time he threw a shot or went to throw a shot, Masternak just either threw with him or countered and just landed on the target every time. And I know Billam Smith said afterwards that he was never hurt, he was never in trouble. Maybe he wasn't at that point, but to me, he looked like he was blowing a bit, and I've no doubt had that fight continued and he carried on to get caught cleanly like that, there would have been some effect. I think it came out later that Masternak sort of not quitting still, not that one. He retired himself. I think he had 3 broken ribs. And for anyone who's had broken ribs at any time, which I have, even breathing hurts when you have, and it's quite an excruciating pain. Breathing hurts, moving hurts. So anything you do, you'll get an excruciating pain, let alone taking shots to the body on them ribs. So, I don't begrudge him that. And he could have only possibly done more damage. And the thing with broken ribs is there's pretty much no treatment for it. You just have to let them rest pretty much. They don't wire up or screw up ribs. So, Billam Smith, he's hard to not like, though. He's a fantastic talker. And he has an uncanny resemblance to Tom Hardy as well, doesn't he, for me? But, entertaining fight. So that remind me of, the sort of fight you would get in a Lock Stock film or a Guy Ritchie film. That was that kind of fight. Well, that's what it looked like. So that was that. Moving on to Otto Wallin. I saw an interview with him on IFL yesterday or the day before, I believe it was, and he was talking about almost a lack of sort of confidence in Joshua and his team because of the fact they had included a rematch clause. Now, the whole rematch clause debate gets thrown about a lot and is a subject of much sort of, people interpret rematch clauses in a different way. Every sort of support base of a fighter that they're facing another fighter who has a rematch clause in place, they will say, he's obviously scared about losing, he's no confidence in their fighter, blah, blah, blah. But to me, if you're the A side, if you're the elite champion, the A side, to me, I certainly would. I'd have a rematch clause written in everything, because it's like, you can almost equate it to driving your car with no insurance. You run the risk of total loss, don't you? I mean, boxing matches can end in some really freak manners. You can lose on a cut. There are all different reasons where you can lose a fight, and by not having a rematch clause, by actively not giving yourself a sort of a small insurance policy, to me is bad business. It's, sports fans, boxing fans are a weird lot, aren't they? Like, to me, that's just, if you live in the real world, that is just common sense. You would have a rematch clause in place. Why wouldn't you? What, just to show how brave you are? I mean, it just makes no sense to me. Sports fans are weird, aren't they? I don't follow football much anymore, but I remember the days when Sol Campbell moved from Tottenham to Arsenal, and he was vilified completely by all those fans and called him a Judas and everything else. Now, it's the only business where if you go to better your career and you take a better offer with better wage and better opportunities and better promotional prospects, in any other normal walk of life, that's accepted, and you would be stupid not to. In sport, you get called a Judas. It's just silly ways that sports fans look at things. So with the rematch clause thing, I just think common sense, absolute common sense, to have a certain amount of security in the event of a loss or the event of a freak loss. You get the opportunity to overturn that. If you can write that in and the opposition's team are going to, when you sit down on contract negotiations and for whatever they accept that, of course you're going to put it in. Just makes no sense to me. To of Otto Wallin, he's very calm and very assured and seems very quietly confident, does he? That's a really good fight. As closer I get and the more I think about that, when I rewatched I think it was last week sometime, I rewatched the Wallin and Fury fight. That's a really close fight. That's almost a pick'em, isn't it? Depending on what Joshua turns up. Will we ever see the return of the old Joshua, or did the psychological damage of the beating by Ruiz in the first fight, is that old Joshua gone, and is that irretrievable? Because I think it can have the effect of where, like in the terms of Joshua, it seems to turn him into almost an on-top fighter where they will perform okay or, at a level against fighters that they know they're sort of already better than. So they don't have the lack of confidence doesn't affect it. I think Kubrat Pulev is a good example. Although he was a little hesitant, he didn't seem the effects of the Ruiz fights were as bad against Kubrat Pulev as they did later on when he fought better opposition. I don't know, but Otto Wallin, Anthony Joshua, good fight. I just watched this morning, actually. I watched one of G-Man's videos, and it was about how different will Jarrell Miller be now he's apparently clean. He's faced stringent testing. He's apparently completely drug-free. Now, Johnny Nelson has said this as well. Now, steroids or anabolics or performance enhancing drugs cannot make people a better fighter. It cannot make them skillfully better. It can give them, higher cardiovascular ability. It can give them higher physical strength. But I think when someone who is spent a lot of time on the gear, shall we say, I think the biggest diminishing factor about coming off the gear is the psychological difference. And this is why, having spent a lot of time around professional bodybuilders, a lot of people who start steroids never come off. And the reason they never come off is once you've been the sort of heightened level of human, almost a superhero in a sense, going back to a normal human just doesn't cut it. And for that reason, you see a lot of people who do steroids who don't even compete, who never come off because they can't handle being normal again. The damage to their confidence and their self-esteem when they come off, they just can't handle it. So from a fighting point of view, and it depends on the personality, but you could very well, and it didn't, I must admit, like at the press conference, he looked the same old Jarrell Miller. But when you know the heightened level of strength, the heightened level of, and that's the other thing you lose when you come off animal. If you've, sending your testosterone levels to super physiological levels, there's an extra 3 or 4 levels of aggression, of confidence that come with putting in synthetic testosterone and putting anabolics and steroids and stuff. So one of the biggest effects for me, possibly, that could be on Jarrell Miller is the fact that will he be as confident, will he be as mentally destructive towards his opponent as he was on gear? Because it's very hard to stay as mentally positive and as mentally strong and think of yourself as a Superman. Now you know you're not. Now you know you're not putting the goodness of that juice in. So I think that could be one of the major telling factors on Jarrell Miller. We will see, won't we? So there's that one. I think also, very quickly moving on, Clarissa Shields, bless her. Now, arguably she's currently the best female fighter operating at the moment. You can argue Katie level. I think Clarissa Shields is technically maybe a better fighter than Katie Taylor, though she hasn't done as much as Katie Taylor. And the thing in women's boxing is it's easier to achieve title greatness because the field is that much smaller, isn't it? But there was videos of her getting dropped in a sparring session from a few years ago, I think, and she claims it was because the padding had been removed from the glove. Now, first off, it's just a silly claim. First off, and her words are the padding had been removed. If the padding is being removed from a glove, you will visibly notice that, right, for a start off. And you will very quickly feel from a jab or whatever that glove does not feel the same. That glove feels like no padding. There's a vast difference. And they're using, I'm assuming they were like losing sort of 14 or 16 ounce sparring gloves, which are pillows essentially. So if you remove all the stuffing from a pillow, that makes a massive difference. But then she came out and made a video saying that how she would be, who was it she said it? Not Crawford. She mentioned Gennady Golovkin and mentioned that she would, immediately she done that with a smile on her face. But there was a few other guys she mentioned who she would beat. And then she said she actually ran to the car to get her knife because she was going to stab him up. Yeah, which is, a wonderful show of character, that, isn't it? And the only reason she didn't was, I think, because her trainer stopped her. She's massively, she genuinely thinks that she would beat elite level male pros. I mean, no more to add on that, really, is it? Yeah, that's it. Quick roundup. Just a few of the talking points that I thought of today. If you haven't already, like to subscribe. We'll be back at the weekend. We've got so much build up to the December 23rd card and stuff like that to come. I've got some really interesting projects lined up for the new year. So if you're going to hang around, I promise you it'll be worth hanging around because I've got some really interesting stuff to come for the new year. So anyway, that's it. See you all soon.